The following show and its content are the responsibility of the show's producers and participants.
Information related in this program is not meant to substitute medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program, you should consult your physician.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
That's right. Welcome to the Couch Live here on a beautiful Friday. As always, we're always here on a Friday. This is the Couch Live on WPSN99.com, the problem-solving network. The 20th year of the Couch Live here. Man.
Wow.
And so welcome, everybody. It's a show that focuses on addiction and recovery and all things in between. I am the street-certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado, along with my partner, Trinity Phillips, the Dharma Guy. There he is for the YouTube watchers.
Hey, what is up?
Of course, if you're watching on Facebook Live, you're watching it at the WPSN 99 Facebook Live site, and, of course, Instagram Live as well. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the good things, right, Trinity?
That's right.
You can always go to youtube.com/thecouchlive for old shows. This show itself, even though it's live now, will be available on YouTube a little bit later on. And you can always follow us at The Dope Doctor or at The Dharma Guy. Is it The Dharma Guy, right?
Yes.
All right. And then, anyway... Trinity, so we can do the whole show, one full hour without interruption, for you people that are listening and don't really like the commercial interruption stuff like we don't really like it. But somebody's got to pay the bills. So Trinity, let's talk about our great sponsors real quick so we can do the show.
All right. We have, as always, I'm gonna say a certain one for last.
Okay.
And you'll know why when I get to that.
Oh.
But we have
strategy.
That's right. We have Journey Pure, a fantastic facility that's got numerous places all over the country that we've definitely sent people to. We also have the Orange County Drug Free Coalition. It's been a big sponsor, as you said, for 20 years, actually.
20 years.
They were on board from the beginning.
Right.
We have Now Matters More Foundation, which you obviously are the founder. I'm the president. You can see more about what we do at nowmattersmore.org, or you can phone us at 833-NOW-MATTERS. That's
right.
833-NOW-MATTERS. We also brought a new one on called Sport Subaru South, and I'm actually kind of fired up about that.
Yes.
Sport Subaru South, they've got a really cool event coming up called the Share the Love event, excuse me.
Right.
Share the Love event from November 15th to December 31st, where they, as an individual dealership and Subaru as a whole, is going to donate $250 a piece for a whopping total of $500 per car sold between November 15th through December 31st.
That's incredible.
I'm pretty fired up about that.
That is pretty damn cool.
And then last but not least, Retreat Behavioral Health. And the reason why I saved them not last but not least is because Mr. Enrique Aponte is here representing them today, actually.
Look at that.
That's right.
Yeah,
and you know what? I like the blue and the white because that kind of goes with some of their colors, too, by the way.
I know, right? He's on brand.
I don't know if he did that on purpose or not, but they should be very proud of you.
He's on brand, man. Enrique Aponte.
That's right, Aponte.
I love that name.
And they also are another fantastic organization, which we've toured multiple ones and doing good things.
I think they have 3 now, right? Three residential programs?
That's correct. Yes.
Right on.
Yep.
We haven't been to the Pennsylvania one yet.
No. And
they got that big, looks like the Space Needle, I guess, or whatever, in Seattle.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Is it? Oh, you've been there?
Great out. Oh,
right
yeah.
on.
Yes. They were kind enough to send me up there for training and all, and it was fantastic. The staff is awesome.
Right
I hadn't felt that welcome. I have no memory. You know.
Hey.
Well, except for here, right?
Hey.
Like, except for here.
Well, and now.
I happen to know a past employer that was pretty damn welcoming to you and loved you very much.
Everybody loves me. Oh, and let me not forget my honeymoon. Yeah, very welcome.
I would hope so.
I had a great honeymoon story the other day. Remind me to tell you guys off the air. It was awesome.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Anyway, back to the show. All right, we're going to hear more about retreat behavioral health and, of course, more about why we're here today. Here's what we're going to talk about today, so you guys get ready.
Yes.
I want to talk about the evolution of treatment and recovery because Enrique's old school. He's been around a long time. I'm relatively now old school. I'm called an old-timer now.
Okay.
Because I have 30 years, so as soon as you hit like a certain number, I guess everybody starts referring to you as an old-timer.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel old and old-timer, but...
We known each other about 20 years
Already?
as well, because we started. Yeah,
Oh
we
my
started
God.
with the Orange County
Coalition.
Coalition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back when Mr. Bob Picaro.
So then it is 20 years.
That's right.
And it is because it's been 20. They've sponsored this program 20 years. I've been a part of that organization 20 years, and you've been part of that organization 20 years. Wow.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, bro.
Little break here and there, but
Wow.
you know.
Wow.
Yes, time
Wow.
flies, man.
Yeah, man. So because of that, and there's so many changes in our field. You hear things like evidence-based therapies now, things like that. MAT, medication-assisted treatment. You hear so many new names or things that I think it's important to kind of talk about the evolution of where this all comes from, why it even exists, and where we're at, almost like the state of recovery as it is today, for lack of a better term. So, anyway, so Enrique. There you are for the YouTube people. By the way, the camera for YouTube is right over here, just so you know. I know that we have Facebook and Instagram Live over there, but the one that's actually going to stick around the longest for the YouTube is right here over my right-hand shoulder. But anyway, so let's start with the basics. Like, back in the day, and I'm not going to go as far as basics like AA basics, like Bill and Bob.
Because I'm looking here, I just
Is that where you went?
No,
okay.
I typed in just wow.
Uh-oh.
I typed in just the evolution. I typed in our show title, just to see what would come up. Apparently, 1750 to the early 1800s, alcoholic mutual aid societies are formed within various Native American tribes.
Right.
Some are part of or evolve into abstinence-based Native American cultural revitalization movements and temperance organizations. So apparently sobriety and recovery and stuff started back in 1750.
Oh, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's documentaries that they've been put out on television that talk about the opioid epidemic. It's not really a new thing.
No.
I mean, in the west coast of this nation, it has a lot of history of that in the spread. It was actually carried by the people will go to the town and with their elixir, 99% codeine, and, and then there was also the opiate dens.
Chasing the dragon.
Exactly.
That's where all that came from. This is nothing new. Addiction is nothing new.
No.
Opioid crisis is nothing new. Look, China had an issue with this long before as high up as people within the palace. Certain wives of emperors have been known to have opioid dependence issues,
and we don't want to go so far back that we don't get till today. Even if we wanted to explore another arena, religious beliefs, there were a lot of tribals and so on. They resorted to different approaches to hallucinations, hallucinogenics, and to be closer to. And as a matter of fact, talking about that bring me back to the hippie era.
Yeah, let's go back there.
You know who Dr. Benjamin Rush is? Have you ever heard that name?
Yeah, I've heard the name, but I don't know it.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
like this is new to me. I didn't know some of this.
Yo,
he said back in 1784, Dr. Benjamin Rush's inquiry into the effects of ardent spirits on the human mind and body catalogs the consequence of chronic drunkenness and argues that his condition is a disease that physicians should be treating.
There you go. That's why I know
Rush's writings marks the beginning of an American temperance movement.
Right.
Wow.
That
was 1784.
That's right where I was about to bring it up before you went into the hippie thing. The temperance movement was probably the biggest one in our not lifetime, but in our era.
I was saying lifetime.
No, not our lifetime, but in our in the generations that have directly impacted us. You have to go to the temperance movement because from the temperance movement comes AANA. That birthed out of there. But like you said, I mean, it's always been looked at as a spiritual malady or some sort of mental health issue or some sort of spiritual issue. But spiritual issues was probably the most dominant form of thought prior to the modern era. That's
right. it's interesting because in the conversation, in the eye of my mind, I see back when if you had a substance abuse issue or some other type of compulsion that made you antisocial, not the norm, the treatment was at places called sanitariums.
There you go.
And you were practically deemed a lunatic.
Right.
You're not conforming.
Right.
And the treatment, if we want to go there, we can just research. It was
lobotomies
medieval.
and stuff.
Yeah, medieval,
It's funny because I literally was, as I was going there, in 1907 to 1913, first of two waves of state laws was passed calling for the mandatory sterilization of defectives, the mentally ill, the developmentally disabled, and alcoholics and addicts.
Right.
So in 1907, the first two waves of laws sterilizing them was there. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they really thought that something seriously was wrong with you. I mean, and here's the weird thing that you even said a word that that I think shocks a lot of people when they start hearing that they have this problem, and they kind of go to that word, which is the antisocial.
Yeah.
Because at first, when you're using, many of us are very social. We do it for social reasons. We're in social environments. You always have friends that are just as effed up as you.
The recreational stage, the recreational stage is a social stage,
right? And so is the abuse.
Yeah,
to a degree.
To a degree,
because while you're still in control, you're with other abusers. You know what I mean? You always find a gang of something, or a grouping of something, and so your social network gets modified based on how heavy you choose to engage, or how attached you are to the substances, and which substances you're attached to. Then, to move us forward, so we don't stay in the past, because we've got to get up to the future. We got to get up to the current and the future. There became more understanding of what we were really dealing with, a lot more science and research, a lot less judgment on the professional end. And I say on the professional end because we still deal with a lot of stigma and judgment on the social end.
Yes.
But there's a lot less judgment on the professional and scientific end, because we were able to map the genetics a little bit better. We're able to map the brain profiles a little bit better. We're able to understand mental health issues a lot better. We've done so much research on all the symptomology.
Assign the disease concept.
Assigned the disease, and we no longer argue that professionally.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, the people that tend to argue the disease concept are people that are actually suffering from it, rather than the professionals.
Yeah, the whole person in that approach.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing. The word holistic, that if you go even 20 years ago, and you'd say holistic, we feel like someone's burning sage in front of your face.
Yes.
And,
which I actually like.
Sage, because it smells like pot.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe that's what it is. So we go from that to holistic actually meaning what it's supposed to mean, which is the whole person.
The whole person.
Right.
And so that just makes a little bit more sense instead of just something about you.
And the self-awareness of the whole person.
Right. Now, mind you, along this entire journey into the past and in the current has been some sort of mentorship, some sort of guidance or help from those that have suffered in the past. Now, mind you, you can go into the history and you don't find a lot of that mentorship. You just find a lot of the, like I said, the judgment and this is what's wrong with you, and professionals dealing with it, but not another one just like them, which is what makes AA and NA very unique when it came up, it was more mentorship.
Yes.
It wasn't priest, it wasn't rabbi, it wasn't the spiritual leader, it wasn't the doctor, it wasn't the therapist, it was another person just like you that had suffered, but they're on the other side of it. Yep. Or both of you are suffering, and together you may, which, by the way, you don't find a lot of that working, like two people just as sick all of a sudden getting better together. That's difficult.
Well, yeah, no, that's not going to work. No, I got some histories on that.
That's a little bit difficult. However, we do find a lot of help and success where you find a mentor, like with anything else. Like if you want to learn real estate, you get together with somebody who's done it successfully, right? You want to be in business, and
that's the idea. Find somebody who's successful and do what they do.
Mentorship has worked in every arena, so why wouldn't it work with this?
I want to interject and mention something as far as like those humble beginnings of AA, and there is, and I forget the denomination that is mentioned in the beginnings with the doctor. There was but it wasn't presented religious.
Right.
It was presented about the spiritual awakening, which is on the 12th step. And I always point that out, that the whole journey brings you to a spiritual awakening. Interestingly enough, the using, it has a lot to do with that elevation, to find some type of spiritual connection with a place
like
of
Timothy Leary,
total comfort.
like acid. Now you're going back to the hippies again.
But
Your generation was looking for something.
It's the chase. It is. Everybody's looking for nirvana. Everybody wants to. We are designed as human beings to not really withstand discomfort too well.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to be, comfortable.
Yeah. Chill and good and feeling good.
But the AA approach it later created the chapter to the agnostic, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the undecided. Right. As far as that area. Right. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. And hold on, let me throw this disclaimer out there for all the big book thumpers, so they don't get all upset. Because we don't represent AA or NA or anything like that. We may have found our paths through there. We may say things that you may know how we got here in the first place. I have 30 years, and my man over here has some time in it too. How many years do you have now?
I got a little bit right now. I'm working on 10.
There you go. Yeah. Working on 10. I like it. I'm working on 31.
Before that, and that's interesting. That. This journey, I began this journey. Yeah. I never had actual negative consequences that were noticeable at first. Right. I made it all the way up to nearly 40 years of age. Mid-90s, I went and took this crazy nosedive. 1999, I sought help for the first time. Right on. And then I put a pretty good run, and this is how I became interested in the field of addictions. Yeah. Primarily, I was trying to decide what am I going to do now professionally. Yeah. Amen. I came down from being a private investigator here in Central Florida, and a
military veteran, let's say that.
Yes, I'm a vet.
You did almost 10 years in the military.
Right. That's right. Started out as airborne infantry, and then I got my last couple of years. It was a warehouse, but they wore me out.
Airborne will do that to you, though.
Yes, yeah. Jump. But my point being that in trying to decide what to do, I figured out that I wanted to know what happened to me. And I realized that addiction was a pretty interesting and young field of study, even at 1999 and 2000. Right. So it took a hold of me, and I went and got formal education in counseling and addiction studies, and then I got bit by the proverbial bug of helping others. Right. And anyway, so the whole thing is a little bit of my history is in the bio, but I just haven't looked back since then. Right. And you know how they say that relapse is not part of recovery? Right. Until it happens. Okay. You can't deny that.
Well, it's part of the disease. So it's part of your story.
Yeah, it's interesting,
I mean? And it's how you use it. Yeah, to make it useful.
Yeah, the therapeutic community, the grassroots and a lot of the faith-based community back then. Speaking of the evolvement, right. Relapsing was frowned upon seriously. Like, what's wrong with you? Right. Why can't you get it? And then the treatment approach, the clinical approach, started looking at if your relapses are getting less intense and further apart, that's progress. Right. And I can see the logic on that. Right. Okay. So when it happens, and interestingly enough, it would be my personal view, it happens over 90% of the time in some shape, form, or another. Right. So how can you be so harsh and set that bar so high, which is basically setting people to fail? Right. So once it happened, and speaking from personal experience, what needs to take place is mincing that episode completely apart. I've heard I love quotes. I don't like cliches, but this says that it's not only about slaying your demons, right, but dissect them and figure out what they've been feeding on. Right. It was excellent for me.
And you have a perfect opportunity at a relapse to really, if you can move the shame out of the way and get into the diagnosing and the let's figure this out. What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
What happened?
To the detail.
Right, to the detail.
To the detail.
I agree.
And let us be careful because, thinking like an addict in active addiction that may be seeking listen to the show is like, oh my God, well, I think I need to relapse so I can really find out.
Listen, wait. I'll pause there for a second. Then. Hold on. Let me talk to the people then real quick. Okay. Anybody thinking like this? First of all, you don't need an excuse to use. You're just looking for an excuse to use. Right. An addict, that's not doing well is always seeking a reason to use anyway. Yeah. So there's nothing you're going to say as a loved one. Don't ever take the guilt of saying, oh, it's because I said this, that's why they relapse, or I did this, that's what. No. We have to take responsibility for our own disease, and the way we take responsibility and heal is you have to stop taking responsibility for it. Let us take full responsibility, but just love us where we're at. And sometimes we're very sick, and sometimes we do some things that are just they don't even make. Look, a lot of times we do things that just don't make sense. I mean, there's really no rational thought on this. Stop thinking so damn rationally. I think that's part of the problem of making it hard for people to understand where an addict is.
It is outside the box.
It's because just a lot of our behaviors and attitudes and things that we say and things that we do just don't make sense, and that is the disease. When it doesn't make sense, that is our problem.
You just touch on a whole. I mean, there's a lot of meat here. This subject about this evolution, because you just touch on the part of this evolution that includes families and the community.
Right.
I mean, but I'm sure we're not going to probably try to get into that today.
Just talk wherever you want, brother.
But
it goes where it goes.
Okay, awesome. But in hearing you saying those words, love us where we are, and etc. A lot of the characteristics of the dysfunctional family or codependency being don't talk, don't feel.
Right.
That has also, through education, which I totally believe necessary, it has evolved as well.
Right.
And I think that also contribute to the individual being funneled onto the recovery episode, a treatment episode or the sort.
Right.
I just wanted to point that out because that was a whole other spectrum.
Well, not a problem. I think one of the most difficult things I think with this disease is the addict or the family that is suffering trusting the systems out there.
Okay.
So more importantly than anything, no matter where we go today, I think that's where we have to end up. We have to end up to a good understanding of what can be trusted.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people out there that claim to be experts in this area. and you've heard me. If you've ever watched this show or ever listened to us at all, you hear me saying, look, I've flown a lot of times in an airplane. It doesn't mean I know how to fly one. I'm definitely not an expert in aviation. Hell, I've driven a car so many miles it's ridiculous. I put over 100,000 miles in a 2-year car. That's how much I drive, and yet I still can't change the oil.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about a car. So just because you are, those of you out there that you're sober, doesn't make you an expert in this.
Absolutely.
Just because you've suffered with alcoholism doesn't make you an expert in this. And just because my dad was an alcoholic or my brother was an addict, it doesn't make you an expert in this.
No.
Unfortunately, this disease creates so many emotions. It creates so much pain. That it knows how to get inside of all of our heads and attach itself to our innermost pains, our innermost insecurities, our innermost fears, anxieties.
Yes.
The things that make us really, really sad that turns into depression. It knows how to attach itself to this stuff for some reason. So that's why we have to have a solution. And if only 1% of the population gets better by standing in the corner on their head, then I'm going to recommend go stand in the corner. Mm-hmm. On your head. I just want to make that clear before wherever we go.
Absolutely. I don't like to be called an expert. I was at a conference one time, and this gentleman, he was introduced as an expert in so many areas. One of the first things he said to break the ice in the conference says, "Don't call me an expert."
Right.
That's too much like you used to be a spurt.
Spurt.
And that always stuck with me. It's like, wow, that's pretty.
I actually did start out as a spurt.
I think we all did. Some of us still are.
Point.
Yeah, I still swim pretty damn good.
Which is another thing. Humor is very important to this walk. This journey.
Well, if you can't laugh about this, then you're just
at some point
place.
Or another.
I can't help you yet.
Correct. Evolution. You were talking about how it attached to the brain, and part of this evolution has been that can actually be mapped out today.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when you said 1999, that's about when we did it. Around that time period is when we mapped the brain. So that's when we kind of found some of the...
Yeah.
And we've changed our understanding from 99. We used to say certain things in 99 that we don't say anymore.
Right.
From that brain mapping studies and all that stuff. However, it still opened the door to a lot of the stuff we know today. I mean, it really went forward pretty fast. Oddly enough, you'll hear me say this too if you listen. Oddly enough, thanks to a lot of pharmaceutical companies. And I'll tell you why. Because only pharmaceutical companies dump the kind of money they dump into research. Regular everyday people don't dump money into research. For what? For what purpose? The only reason money is put into research is for financial gain. Don't get it twisted. Or for college thesis. For somebody graduating, that's when they do research.
Okay.
They have to do research in order to graduate as a doctor in something. And universities or organizations only put money in research when they're going to, at the end of the day, do something with that data. Data has to turn into money. And data turns into money in pharmaceutical industry. So that's how they find cures. I mean, the only way we're going to find a cure in this is if all these pharmaceutical companies keep working us. Yeah. And we need to be willing participants in this to get to where... Because I really do think there's a cure, but that's going a little bit forward. Yeah. But, all right, so it attaches to the brain. The evolution of treatment and recovery was, all right, get in some sort of group model. Mm-hmm. The group model became what it is, right? Yeah. But from the group model, you have two different... You remember the therapeutic communities. I think you worked in one, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I worked at a program that predominantly worked with what's known as reentry today, right, from the judicial system, from incarceration. Right. And that place, if you don't mind me mentioning it, the Bridges of America. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a peer-to-peer run community. Right. That was exactly.
Is it still run that way?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I imagine that it's probably, I don't know. I'm not going to speak of their changes.
Okay, I didn't know if you knew.
Or their
and I've spoken their sense. I just don't know how they do the therapy. I've gone in there to speak. Yeah. But I didn't ask them how they currently do it because it's not a place I refer to. That's a place a judge refers you to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. From the Department of Rejection.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So
that's a place I don't want to go.
Yeah. I don't want to speak of any industry, any providers. Evolution. That's not.
Oh, I do plenty. I do plenty of that.
Yeah. Well, everybody knows, Louis. You can get away with it. I don't
know if I can get away with it.
Really cautious.
But go ahead. All right. So so then you were doing therapeutic communities.
Yeah, I did case management there, and interestingly enough, you have to consider the community, peer-to-peer run community, right? Where that's another part of the evolution. Like, what is the characteristics of this community for this peer-to-peer to be effective? Right. That's how far I'm going to go with that. But yes, speaking of the initial approach to this conversation, that was one model.
Well, it was also breaking you down to build you back up. That's the whole crux of it. Right, was about nothing that you have to say is valid. Like when I got in recovery, I mean, you're talking about 1988. I was told, shut up, take the cotton out of your ears, stick them in your mouth, and just listen. Yep. And it was almost like a child, right? Like you have nothing valid to offer. No. Where some would say that's missing in today's recovery. Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like the fact that when you cry in a meeting today, there's tissues and there's people holding you and there's people caring about it. I mean, when I got in recovery, if you cried, this is on you. Yeah. Plus, there was times where I remember, the first meeting I was at where some dude came in there and said, I want to drink today. Man, you would have thought he said the worst thing. Well, this old man grabbed $5 out of his pocket, give him $5 and get the F out of here and go drink. Right. This meeting is for people who want to stay sober. Right. And it was like, dang, I didn't feel like I could open up. Mm-hmm. But then when I mentioned that to the sponsor, then I didn't feel like I could say anything because it seems like a lot of judgment. They go, well, you're not supposed to say anything anyway. What are you going to say? Mm-hmm. They go, here's what you say. That it's still just as bad out there as when they were out there. That's all they really want to hear you say. They don't want you to come in here and tell them how recovery is because you don't have any. Yeah. So really what you do to the old timers is you remind them that it's still just as bad out there as when they came in, and so they don't have any imagination of it somehow getting nicer and softer out there. Yeah, or there's a new drug out there that now they can use, or that somehow alcohol has changed.
That they can buy at the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, right. But you remind them to keep it green. And what they do is tell you that recovery is possible. So listen to what they say, even though you don't like the personality saying it. So that kind of helped a little bit. But, man, it's a lot softer now. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, that's a great point for evolution, and you can look at it softer or perhaps more
empathetic,
all involved, all involvement, involving everything about it.
It's just not about not drinking anymore.
Because it used to be in the same concept of take the cotton out of your ear, put it in your mouth. It used to be like, how do you know if an addict is lying or an alcoholic? His lips are moving. And now with the motivational interviewing, you actually want people to talk.
Oh yeah. In counseling, I was trained completely opposite. In the early days of counseling, you shut up. The counselor speaks 80% of the time. It was all didactic or the counselor talking. There was no client really sharing because again, what the hell are you going to say? Yeah. Like, I want to hear all your excuses. So I wasn't initially trained to really listen much.
No validation.
Yeah. And then as time went on, we've become better listeners.
Yes.
We've become more but it's still a vast difference than a strictly mental health therapist who stays quiet 80% of the time. The drug and alcohol counselor still interjects because they still confront. Mental health therapists don't confront as much as a drug and alcohol counselor does because there's still that real, I got to stay real non-judgmental. Whereas a mental health, drug and alcohol counselor has the ability to call you on your shit just a little bit better, especially if they've been there. Once you build a rapport up. But it's got to be built.
Yeah, even at a deeper level with the peer support person nowadays.
Even more. That's another layer now.
Exactly.
Right.
It's more closer to the individual.
Right.
As a peer support and now being certifiable. Right.
Certifiable
approach.
sounds like a mental health. You're certifiable.
Yeah, but you're certified.
You mean there's a certification for that person?
Yeah, it's become a certification. Right. With the Florida Certification Board.
That's right.
You were already certifiable.
I was born certifiable. Bro.
You're at the next level now because now you want to work with people like.
That's right. That's right. Well, because all that means is there's oversight. All that means is that you've learned the ethics of what you do.
Yeah.
Without a certification, you haven't learned the ethics of how to handle that responsibility.
Right.
That's the big difference.
Yeah.
There's another, I guess there's another side of these things, though, because I hear you guys talking about the evolution of the actual,
process?
The treatment itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I obviously don't have any years of cleaning because I'm not in recovery, so I can't comment on that one because I only know what I've seen, and I came into it when all this evolution is pretty much already happened. But the evolution that I have seen that I think in an indirect way drives that evolution is the evolution of society.
Mm-hmm.
The stigma is still very much alive and still very much there, but the stigma has changed over the years. Like, more eyeballs are on that process. And so I think the more eyeballs that you have on that process, the more change has to come. Because before, it wasn't really talked much about. Like, the average lay person who wasn't involved in recovery didn't really care. It was those people, But now that more people are taking part of it, it's on the news more, people are talking about it, they care more about where's my loved one going, what's happening to them.
I have a theory on that.
Go for it.
Were you done with that?
Well, to me, I think that was part of the, when I hear evolution of treatment and recovery, I not only think the evolution of the recovery itself, but also I think the evolution of the mainstream thought process on it has evolved as well. Okay. And I think that is contributed in driving the actual protocols. Because more people are paying attention, it's more public.
I would agree with that.
It's not as hidden anymore, so you have to answer more people before.
Absolutely, there's actually movements right now.
Yeah.
With if you check LinkedIn, you see that a lot. Advocacy is a lot more aggressive.
We're on a live Facebook show right now talking about addiction recovery, and we're not saying those loser schmucks.
No,
what's wrong with them?
All right, so here's my, and I'm going to call it a theory because I didn't do any research to prove it. And just for some of you just to not get get your little underwear in a wad or
You're
whatever.
a dope doctor.
You right. Damn right about that. Anyway, the theory on that is the anonymity part that was so precious in all those early years of AANA and all the A's. The anonymity part that allows people to feel free and come into the rooms and to speak openly in the rooms without judgment, without fear, without a lot of stuff. That same anonymity broken outside of the rooms, not in the rooms, because you still don't break your anonymity inside the rooms, and you still don't talk about what you hear in there, or you don't talk about what's anyone else's story,
even in the therapeutic model.
Right. But when you come out and someone like me saying I'm in recovery and I'm on radio and I'm on television and I'm saying that, and you have people of some cultural value like Steven Tyler or Iron Man. I always forget.
Robert Downey Jr.
What was that?
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. People like this that have come out and said, I'm in recovery. that and Darryl Strawberry.
Yeah.
I think these individuals, people like that, that's what changed public perception. I think what changes public perception is when you already love somebody, even while they were sick and you didn't know it.
Yeah.
You want to forgive them. So you may not want to forgive your brother. You may not want to forgive your husband or wife. You may have some serious resentment on them. But you didn't have to go to a therapeutic process to love Darryl Strawberry again. Unless you were his ex. You didn't have to go to a therapeutic process to love Robert Downey Jr. again, unless you were the guy that found him naked in your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other words, you already wanted to. Wow, you want to cheer for them because you've already cheered for them. You've already watched them grow.
Interesting.
So I think the anonymity being dissolved to a degree, or understanding anonymity, it's not such a black and white issue anymore. And anonymity used to be a black and white issue. When I first started this show 20 years ago, some hardcore Ayers were mad. They hated it. What helped it is my sponsor at the time, Bob. I'll forever love you and thank you forever. He had a television show back in the 70s talking about it. And so when I did it and I was catching so much flack, he says, they're not you. You're not them. You're not getting sober for them. You're getting sober for you. And you go out there and you do what you got to do. You'll save lives the way you save lives. He goes, you'll save your life the way you save your life. He goes, this is not written by experts. It's written by drunks like us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
And so the way his approach was so understanding that nobody really knows this or has this right.
Right.
These are all just suggestions. But there's certain processes that just help them do them, but you do it. And I say all that because what I've noticed is I think the public perception requires people to see successful people in recovery. It requires them to see a CEO of a company doing very well in the company and go, did you know that guy had 20 years in recovery?
Yeah.
See, recovery is possible. Your brother can get better. Your sister can get better. Your grandmother can recover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it requires us to see hope. Because if the only people that get publicity are the people that fail and die from this disease, where the disease wins, then how are you ever going to attach to hope? And you require hope.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to say the other part of that too isn't even just. I think it's a combination. Personally, as the layman, it wasn't just seeing the hope; it was also seeing the different calibers of people who do fall to it.
Correct. Yeah.
Like it wasn't even just seeing the hope. Like I know
it wasn't
for
just
me,
street people, right?
Yeah, like it was. Growing up, all I saw was like, homeless people.
Otis.
Just like people that I wouldn't normally kind of like hang out with and walk down the street with, And so when it gets publicized or the anonymity gets broken and you get to see it's your brothers, it's your sisters, it's that athlete.
It's not just that one uncle.
Yeah.
That one uncle.
Yeah, it's like all sorts of people from all walks of life are dealing with it. It kind of, it shakes up your vision there a little bit. Yeah. So I think I think hope is definitely part of it, but I think it's also like, it's not just those 100%. People. It's everybody. Let me rethink this.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah,
when you see doctors and pilots and people of worth and value that you've already had worth and value on.
Yeah, very cool. Interesting. You used the word a caliber of this person and or a perceived.
Yeah,
perceived.
Absolutely,
that's right.
Okay, and the caliber is really demonstrated in the actual getting up from the fall.
Yeah, damn straight.
So I wanted to point that in there. I had something in mind to say here just a moment ago.
Okay.
And concerning not only that this evolution has helped with the social stigma, but it's also empowered the person in recovery. Personal experience, I got a lot of them, but this one is very fresh. Last night, I attended a city hall meeting with the city council, public meeting.
Right.
With the intention of going and presenting what Retreat Behavioral Health has to offer to a community.
Right.
Okay. And there's need everywhere. There is not this one cookie cut approach to this because humans are not cookie cut. It's impossible. Right. So here I go again on my soapbox about collaboration, and I'm going to keep doing that because
do it, brother. Preach
collaboration. Sometimes somebody calls your program and you a community-based program that don't take insurance, and the person don't want what you have to offer. You know who the insurance players are in the community. Refer, referral,
right. Connect them.
Likewise,
don't just tell them to make another phone call.
That's right. Yeah,
sorry,
connect
I can't
them.
help you.
You help them
exactly. And here I go. I put that out last night. I'm
on.
representing Retreat Behavioral Health,
Right.
Which is a fantastic, beautiful, with a great staff, upgrade program.
Right.
Okay, but I'm going to get people that are going to come to me, and I have the green light all across the board with Retreat.
Right.
If they're not meet criteria for us,
Right.
still get them help.
That damn straight.
Absolutely.
That's right.
But
Still
that's
get
what
'em
makes
help.
retreat.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm a consumer advocate, and I have totally fallen in love with this organization
Right.
because of that.
A matter of fact, wouldn't it be safe to say, Enrique, that over 80 to 90% of the calls that you're going to get are not going to be
yeah,
appropriate for your services?
probably not. Exactly. Probably not, because by the time an individual sometimes get to that point, resources are exhausted.
Right.
Not only the individual but the families, because
Right.
we'll like we on a on a predatory type behavior.
Oh, my God.
Living of another living organism. Okay, but
I like that. Living off another living organism.
Which is actually
I
not,
like that
not,
one.
not predatorial, but
no, but I better.
Parasitic.
parasitic. Thank you very much. That's what it is, and I have had to use that with some people. Actually call them a parasite so they can. but,
I'm sure that went over well.
But it's true. Actually, it's an awakening. Of
course.
It's first in anger and indignation, and then it's like, well, it's true. I got history.
Can Trinity, can you write that down for me? Living off another living organism. I'm still stuck on that one.
Okay, I'm glad you love it. But here,
that's a book.
Yeah.
That's a book title right there.
You know it. let me just wrap my little spiel
I'm
here.
sorry,
about
go
this
ahead.
story.
I'm
No,
sorry.
we're good. And so last night I was in front of this panel, upstanding individuals in the community.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm speaking about a community that I've come to love, which is St. Cloud, Florida.
Right.
Soldier, also known as Soldier City. So I have a relation with.
Oh,
it.
is this?
Yeah. It's a lot of rich history there, man.
All right.
I'm not going to get into that. I'll deviate from the subject. But one of the things I did in presenting, the fantastic services and who Retreat Behavioral Health is,
Right.
I also had to, say to them who I am, and I presented it as, there was a high-ranking police and first responders and the whole shebang of the community leaders. I am a living, breathing example that the system works.
Damn straight.
The providers, the services, all of them.
All of them.
All of them work.
All levels.
All levels. Okay. Which bring me to say something that we was talking about earlier, and you told me to write it down, so I won't forget.
Yeah.
Because you were mentioning people going to AA and not being able, not staying sober and blaming AA or NA,
right.
and this program don't work because of this and that, and this one. So they go through individual different levels and types of approach.
Right.
And then at one point or another, whether it's because pain is a good motivator for change or what have you, they get it.
Yeah.
The light comes on. Okay. At that point, my insight into that is, it's not one program. It is working diverse approaches to sobriety. Simply is attained is attained by means of all together as one worked.
Man,
Okay.
you put words together like, man, you go to college or something?
All together. Yeah, I got 2 doctor's degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't know that, right?
No.
One is screwing up my life, and one is putting it back together. It's
What's
not-
the layman's explanation of what you just said?
whatever your journey has been.
Right.
It's not that none of them did not work.
Right.
It's that when it was all said and done, all of them worked
Damn straight.
together.
That's the truth.
That's
That's #truth right there.
that's where I'm at with that.
Right. Because it's the thing is that whatever the evolution has been, don't just look at the very last program you went to and go, that's the one that worked. It's all of it. Even the ones that you perceived as not working.
Yeah.
Even the individuals in your life that you thought didn't help.
Right.
All of your experiences led up to where you are today.
That's right.
Just like you can't blame any one individual for getting to where you're at.
No.
I hear that too. If it wasn't for that one friend, or the family loves to say that, his friends, or or whatever. I was like, it's not the friends. There's so many aspects. There's so much enabling in this world other than just family.
Yeah.
This whole world enables you.
Yep.
And then once they start holding you accountable, damn it, it's like they don't let it go.
Yeah.
This whole world also needs to forgive you. But we also need to forgive ourselves. We need to stop enabling ourselves and forgive ourselves and go through this process.
Huge.
But my worst teachers, to me, are my best teachers.
Exactly.
And so sometimes that worst program you went to was your best program because you fought it the most, but you didn't forget some of the things that you learned in that program.
Right.
And some of those counselors and some of those other individuals in that program. You go, man, you're right. I got something from it.
Some of the stuff you didn't like, you said that's BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. I like to tell people if you're a counselor, a therapist in this business, and all your clients say you're the best, you're awesome. Nobody has ever said watch it. Sometimes watch it because sometimes that means they feel like they can manipulate you or you're buying something they're selling and some of the other professionals aren't buying it, but there's a reason some of those people aren't buying it.
Yeah.
They're not buying it because it's probably bullshit. However, sometimes it is true. So it's not a foolproof. It's just for a lot of rookie counselors and therapists always need to hear that. Just know this. They're always going to come to you and say, you're the best. You're the best.
Yeah, be careful.
Be very just walk, just tread lightly after that.
Yeah.
Just tread light. Just understand that may be partly true, but it also may be partly manipulation because this disease loves to find openings.
Yeah.
And it's not just that individual. It's like water.
Yeah.
People are water, and people look. What does water do? Water looks for an opening. And that's individuals. That's what humans do.
And I like to point out that is not reserved for people in substance abuse. And
that's why I said the
alcoholism.
humans.
Yeah,
that's why humans. Humans look for openings.
No doubt.
You leave an opening. I mean,
right.
we are made of water.
Yeah.
There's a reason we do that.
So last night I'm over there. Last night I'm over there in the council chambers.
Yeah, what happened?
And I'm got my suit on and all that, and I'm like presenting very.
Oh, so you got two of them at least.
Yeah. I'm like Einstein. I have 7 of the same type.
You just lost it.
Yeah, and I'm there, and I'm presenting myself well and all that, and and then. All of a sudden, it's like when you scratch the record, and some of you that know,
everybody looked at you.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm asking you to trust a recovering addict."
Right.
Wow. Okay. And what I've noticed is actually very welcoming, and you'll find out who is impaired and who is not. As far as like receiving this new evolution,
not impaired in a city council drunk
evolution,
yeah.
in character, in their humanity.
Oh, I love that. Impaired in character.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. And what I was saying earlier to tie it up is this hasn't only been a stigma removal for society, but it's empowering to the person trying to get their life together. Okay, because I'll stand in the middle of town and I will. Respectfully and in a way that this is who I am, that's who I was, this is who I've become, and whoever has a problem with that in a negative way, what I think to myself is that's entirely too many people in this world for me to be concerned about a handful that are not going to be beneficial to me. T.D. Jakes says, surround yourself with people that are so intelligent that makes you feel stupid.
Yeah.
And that are so well off that makes you feel dirt poor.
Yeah.
Because from those people you can glean something, and that requires courage. Yep. So I present myself according to the situation, and I encourage every person in recovery to help other people in recovery by that. Be yourself. Be the best you that you can be every day. And if that means being transparent, I find a lot of strength in transparency. Right. Okay, because when it's all said and done, my conscience is the one that makes a soft pillow. Right. So in speaking on this evolution, we've come from that. We come from the dirty little secret in the family, in the life of the person in recovery, to forgive me if you will, okay, and help me.
Yeah.
Because you don't want me this way. You don't want me to be the one that you have to watch out driving drunk or breaking into your house for your property because of this horrible condition. Right. Well, then be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem.
Right.
Because nowadays it's touched just about every single fiber of this community and this nation. In some shape, form, or another, it's as close, I would risk to say, as third person, the furthest from just about anybody right now. Whether it's mental health, and that's another big evolution. It used to be either addiction or mental health.
Yeah,
The
you were a
chicken
psycho.
or the egg, yeah. So now we know how hand in hand it goes.
The lobotomy has never worked.
No, that didn't work. The induced diabetic shock.
Oh man, I worked at a place that still gave electric shock. I worked at listen. That's how long ago I've been in this business. I actually worked at a facility that we conducted electroshock therapy.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
In all, here's the use that I saw from it, by the way, which you would have thought I'd been electrocuted or something, because it was the lack of memory. Well, hell, if I forgot I had a problem.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
there was a lot of loss of memory, man. I was like, ooh. So if you're suffering resentments, I forgot what I had a resentment about.
That's on the therapeutic on the clinical approach, right? It's like, we're going to give you a little shock. Just here, bite this piece of wood.
Dude, I used to drive them to that, man. I was that guy. It's horrible. I was the guy that drove them to the. I did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. In those people's stories, they remember. Oh, I remember this guy Lowe used to drive me to the doctor, and that was me. That's horrible, man.
Yeah.
But that's how long I've been in this business. Well, that was actually done. You don't do that at a retreat, right? You don't do electric shock.
No, we don't do electric shock. Man. We don't walk around. Don't walk around with cattle prods.
No sterilization either, though, right? Like, you're not sterilizing people.
On the contrary. I'm glad you said that.
That's another one.
I'm glad you presented that, because that's another absolutely fantastic characteristic of retreat. Very individualized.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
It's and I got some literature here. It's a process here.
No, don't worry about that. Speak from your heart. No, don't worry about that.
From my heart.
Yeah, I know you are. I want to keep it that way.
Yeah. Okay. And I wasn't going to read, but it's very individualized.
Right.
Age, gender, background, new track that it has to do with spiritual bankruptcy. So it's truly a whole.
Like,
person
who isn't
recovery.
spiritually bankrupt when you're that low?
Yeah, right. So that evolution is progress.
Yeah, they need a Dharma guy.
Yeah. No doubt. I've been to places now.
I bring in priests, reverends. I brought in everything. You guys already know that if you ask me for a certain spiritual leader, I'm going to find that spiritual leader and bring that person to the treatment center, because whatever it takes.
Yeah.
To not be spiritually bankrupt is
exactly.
important.
Might be hit and miss sometimes, but what do you think you need? Where you are with this? Let's be reasonable. So retreat is very complete, very whole.
Right.
From full spectrum of care.
That's because you're a leader. But that's because you're a
up.
leader. That's because the leadership built it right.
Yeah.
That's because Peter is a man of value, and I say that not of wealth. I mean that because he came from the industry. Like, he was a therapist for so many years. Right. So he's a provider. He's on that front line. Yeah. And so when a person from the front line is able to understand this problem and say, God, I just don't like when you refer people to programs and they're just like, it's driving me nuts. Why don't you just do this? What about this? And you have ideas. Yeah. And then you get the right team around you to perform those ideas. It's beautiful.
And that's huge about providers, and that brings me to remember a level of concept of leadership that says, that's a whole other subject I can speak on. It says, prepare your people so that they will succeed wherever they go, but treat them so they want to stay.
Damn straight.
Right. There was a little story about the two CEOs that were talking about sending people to expensive training. Right. One of them, I don't know, somebody's probably heard this before. One of them says, you sure you want to spend the money on that? And the other one says, well, if we don't spend the money on that, are you sure you want to spend the money on the fallout from unprepared people? And the liability?
I'll raise my hand. I'll raise my hand. I'm guilty of that, everybody. I once had both these people on the payroll, and I hired a wrong person at a facility because I wasn't the money person. The money person had a certain purse string. This is full disclosure. Had a certain purse string attached to it, and it was like I could only afford a certain level instead of what I wanted. Man, that was ugly. And then when they finally released it, they wanted me to hire this other clown, and I was like, no. That person was even more. Woo. The problem is that you really have to have the right team around you. Yeah. At all levels. Ownership has to have the right culture.
And
that means whoever's putting the money into the facility has to put the money in the facility.
Yeah,
but all levels, the clinical director, the medical director, the therapeutic staff, the line staff, the techs, which I find to be the most valuable employees the
janitor,
whole
everything.
the janitor, everybody. If they're not all on the same page and they don't all understand the same culture, it will fail.
Absolutely.
And so I'm glad that program that I had for that time period did fail because it did not have that, and I needed out of that.
That's evolution right there.
That's evolution right there. Oh, I always admit my failures. But here's what I like about it. I'm not afraid of failure. I will do it again and again and again because it doesn't bother me because I learn from that stuff. To me, it's a lesson, right? And so if you can't learn from bumping your head and scratching, then what else can you learn from? Here's what else. Other people's bumping and scratching.
Yeah.
So first, I learn best by other people's bumping and scratching because that keeps me alive. That's why I didn't run in front of a car. That's why I haven't been hit by a train. That's why I didn't jump off a 10-story building.
Yeah.
So I learn more by other people's failures or misfortunes and then are mine. Right, and then the fear of, right. So those kind of 3 levels of learning for me, and sometimes I don't have that fear, which that's problematic. You know what I mean? I need to massage the fear, like I don't have certain feelings.
Yeah,
I don't have certain feelings. I don't have certain fears, which could be problematic.
That's right.
So that's why I got Dana, and then Dana's my moral compass and my you'll die from that compass.
I used to suffer from that.
I'd have more broken bones.
Yeah, I used to suffer from that. I used to jump out of perfectly flying aircraft.
Oh yeah, I love. Yeah,
that's not but
well, I was gonna get certified in that, and Dana kept saying, you'll lose your life insurance, right? And I said, well, they won't know. And I'm thinking, but if I did die from it,
they'll find out.
I had to really. That was a hard one because I jumped out and I was, oh my God, that was the best rush ever.
Yes, sir.
There was more pleasure impulses per second than anything. I was like, I'm becoming certified in this. I'll buy a plane. I don't give a damn. I'm doing this. And I had to come to the realization. But the reason you have life insurance is to protect your family. And if you die from this, it's against your. It says it right here. I can't scuba dive and I can't skydive.
Yeah. 2
things that I thought, well, I didn't really give a crap about scuba diving. That's Trinity. But I did like the skydiving stuff.
I did that too.
Yeah. You hear the compulsion, don't you? He said, I'll buy a plane.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you. Dude, let me tell you something. They're smart as hell, and I'll shut up. They're smart because the second I landed, they asked me, do I want to buy a second jump at half price?
Of course.
Oh, my God.
Of course I bought it.
Upsell them.
I'm high at the moment. I just landed. Dana, where's credit card?
You want this rock for
all right,
half
so
price?
to close up, anything you want to say in closing about this evolutionary process?
Well, what I have to say, if I were to say anything of value, would be this. Mm-hmm. In any type of development, we can choose to find and zero into the negatives. We also have the ability to zero into the positive. In order to continue to evolve for the better, it is highly recommended to focus on the positive developments.
Right.
Fault finding is easy.
Yeah.
Okay. And easy has not gotten us to where we are in the progress.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the ability to be open. Like what you were saying about your story, it caused me to think about a school of thought of philosophers that shared that an intelligent man learned from his mistakes, but a wise man learned from the mistakes of others.
Damn straight.
We need to be wise.
Yes.
And there's been enough mistakes being done.
Yeah, I don't care if I'm stupid as long as I'm wise.
I have developed a couple of personal approaches to these situations of life, and one of them is I don't remember the last time I had a bad day. I have bad moments sometimes during the day, if you want to call them that, but never the whole day.
Right.
Impossible. And last but not least, I don't call none of my experiences failure any more than I tell myself that I have wasted time. Because a lesson is never a waste, and I've learned a lot. I don't adopt wasted time, okay? And I don't adopt in my frame, mistakes. They're learning opportunities.
Absolutely.
They have been lessons.
Absolutely.
The mistake would be to stay stuck.
Yes, I love it.
Yep.
And that's what I got to say about that, like Forrest Gump.
Right on. Trinity, last words.
That?
Hey, well, it's up to you.
No, I mean, we're running out of time, but I will say that I think the biggest takeaway for everybody is just understanding that it has evolved.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the big takeaway is on all parameters, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you define it, whether you're in it or you're out on the outside looking in it, it has evolved. And that's a good thing, and it's going to continue to evolve, and it is possible. More possible now than it probably ever has been.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Well, everybody, I think they both said it best. I don't think there's much more to add. I think hopefully that regardless of where you're at in your recovery or where you're at in your use, just know that the recovery is possible. That's the key point, I think, is that we continue to evolve. We'll continue to figure this out. I do believe there's a cure out there. Please, if you're a young person watching this, go find it. Somebody out there is going to find this. Somebody out there is going to come up with new ideas. If you need help for anything, make sure to call 833 Now Matters. That's 833 Now Matters. We will help you get to places like Retreat or any other program out there. And I know Trinity's family thought they snuck in, but you saw them come in. And for the people watching YouTube, you saw them. You see them duck their heads. That was his wife and his daughter, one of his daughters. Anyway, so from all of us here on the Couch Live, adios amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.
And that was without even a single drop of rum.
That was awesome.
He really grows on you, doesn't he?